What is shaken? Welcome to another round of MTGA tasting notes with me in the cellar. This is going to be a fun wine to get into. This is the third vintage of Pinot Noir that I had ever made, our 2017 Pinot Noir. This is how I kind of treat the third vintage of any wine that I'm making, is that typically for me, it ends up being a benchmark kind of wine. Because the first 2 years, I'm kind of figuring out the barrel program, the aging time, the vineyard site, kind of the best order of operations for making that wine. And by the time year 3 rolls around, it's like, all right, we've got this pretty well lined up to knock it down. And 2017 was no slouch for us. Now, there was one potential hiccup that came our way, and that was a batch of fires that were late into the season. Now, for us, luckily enough, those fires started after we had harvested all of our grapes. So we were already making wine at the winery, and we had no impact whatsoever from the 2017 fires, very luckily enough. And with that, our overall wine quality is exactly what you would expect. There weren't any issues. It was a very kind of staple, kind of stand-up, solid vintage for MTGA. And luckily enough, not nearly as stressful as vintages that would come later. Looking at you, 2020. The 2017, at the time, you know, it's just got this beautiful longevity to it. I really think 2017 is just one of those solid, just benchmark kind of years for Napa and even Northern California as a whole. The wines are just yummy. There's really not a slouch in that vintage, at least not that I've been able to find. And now that it's, been out and released for a little while, these wines have only developed, gotten better with time, and they're just in a really pretty spot. So without any further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So first, right out of the gate, it's very typical, like bright red fruit, cranberry, raspberry, a little bit of that licorice kind of thing going on in there. We did age this in about 30% new oak barrels, lightly toasted barrels. So you get a little bit more of kind of those lighter spices, vanilla, butterscotch kind of things going on in there as well. And it's just solid all the way around. Even after a couple of swirls, just cruising. And you definitely get a little bit more of the barrel characteristics on the palate. You get a little more of that vanilla, as I mentioned, kind of that butterscotchy kind of toastiness. Really, really well integrated as it's tasting these days. And even though many of us think, Pinot Noir is typically maybe a lighter wine. Maybe there's also kind of the quote unquote like cab lovers Pinot Noirs that are out there, just kind of like big, rich, jammy guys. This is not on the lighter end of the spectrum. It's definitely not on the jammy side. This definitely splits a little bit more of the difference in between. For those of you that have been drinking our Pinot Noir for a while, you know that this is the food wine. This is something that you pair up with just about anything under the sun. The classic pairings are always kind of your game meats. Those are always solid. You look at, duck, rabbit, venison, things of those nature, always really, really solid with Pinot Noir. You can go on the lighter side of things with great chicken or fattier fishes. Man, there's nothing like a great cut of salmon with this Pinot Noir. Really, really solid all the way around. But the way I typically use Pinot Noir, believe it or not, Pinot is for me, I'm at home, I've had a day, I'm putting my feet up, I'm kicking back, I'm relaxing on the couch. It is just an easy sipping wine. There's plenty of structure in there for you to enjoy it without it being overbearing, and it's also light enough where you can just sip and enjoy. You don't have to think too hard about it, but there's plenty there that reaches out and grabs you and keeps this wine interesting and just really, really yummy all the way around. Yeah, for its classic Pinot Noir from MTGA, something that I'm so proud of these wines once they get a little bit of time in bottle, aging wise, and 2017 just being a solid vintage for us all around. Very happy with the way it turned out, and still today just tasting delightful.